was developed about 5.5 or 6 years ago by a volunteer group of seniors from Worcester Polytech on their engineering degree. They have some kind of a program where they volunteer, and so they developed the entire plan for this. So now it's actually going to be implemented. But we needed to know the metes and bounds before we could put it in.
Yeah, does it fall within a CR too?
It will fall within the CR, absolutely no question, but it's not going to take up more than about 1/4 of an acre of the 2 acres that are taken care of.
Absolutely.
But part of the reason for the metes and bounds is because Old Sturbridge Village, it seems, has a lien on one corner of the property. In back of where the sheds are, up toward the road, it seems like that may be part of Old Sturbridge Village property. So we may be coming to Becky to see if we can get some thing written so that we go and beg to see if we can get a write-off on it. But that's gonna be part of the TA's job first.
So it's not a lien, it's they own the land.
We need an easement.
It's an easement.
We get the easement.
We
they
get
own
the
the
easement,
land.
right.
Yeah.
We need to get the easement.
Yeah.
Well, they're claiming they own the land. We
Yeah,
haven't-
yeah.
Haven't done a search yet to see whether that's real or not. Anyway, that was the Trails Committee meeting.
Great. All right, Becky, do you want to go to walk-ins? Is that the next thing you want to do?
We don't have walk-ins, but we do have a tree removal permit application I'd like to do before our first public hearing.
Okay, well, let's do it then.
Alright,
Yeah.
so come on up and sit down up there and just need you to introduce yourself.
You may sit.
You can sit.
Yeah, I consider stand your choice.
What would you prefer?
Sit. You're more comfortable.
Whatever you say.
Charles, I did go out there and met Mr. Mimo, so I took a couple pictures and I can put those up if it'd be helpful when you're talking about the trees, so.
Sure,
Okay.
whatever you think would work.
Before
you
we
have a-
start, you
you have a
need to
copy?
introduce yourself to the public.
Oh, you're on the television?
Yes.
Yes.
Geez, I should have dressed up.
Your tuxedo is fine.
I'm Charles McCarthy. I'm a consulting arborist. The name of my firm is Arbor and Horticulture Advisor. And I was hired by, I think we'll call it Peter and Anthony, because I have a hard time pronouncing Anthony's last name, of 72 and 76, I believe, South
Yep.
Shore, to look at some trees, because they're concerned about tree failures. Evidently, they had a failure at 72 a few years back, and I'm not sure if it was it might have been the October 29, 2011 wet snowstorm. You guys probably know that one. It's
Yeah,
kind of
we do.
famous around here.
We call it the ice storm out here.
It was mostly snow, though. That was wet snow, so you got to get it right, you know. Anyways, if you go way back, I'm not sure if you're old enough, you had a fantastic similar storm, December 8th, 96. That's going back a little bit, but very similar type of storm. Anyways, they'd called me out to look at 3 trees that they were worried about. Turns out one tree was definitely owned by Tony, and the other 2 trees look like they may be co-owned trees, they're right on the boundary line. So did you have a copy of the report I made?
I have
No.
a copy of the
Yeah.
report, yeah.
So in the report, I made a little map of where the trees were, and I numbered the trees. And the first tree was a white pine tree.
You have a pointer up there too. I think your first
oh.
one is
Let's see.
this one here.
Yeah, that's
I think it's this one, the other pine,
that's
this one.
76 we're looking at.
Yes.
I gotta figure out how to
Yeah.
work this here.
I have a couple different
Oh,
angles
there it
too,
is, there it
but
is,
yeah.
okay.
So, yeah. this
Yeah. It might be this one. It's tough
Yeah.
to see this one because what I'm concerned about the trees is not that there are any defects in them. Okay, what they asked me to do was a tree risk assessment for each tree, and that's what I did according to the ISA basic tree risk assessment form, which is ISA is International Society of Arboriculture. So I basically did an assessment of the 3 trees. And they don't have any defects in the way of cavities or cankers, or they're not dead trees, okay? But both the pines, and you can see this, I think that's is this
I
the
think
tree?
it's this one here. You know, I can go to another photo for you.
Yeah.
There's this one here. This is the first
Okay.
one.
Well, let's look at the first one. It looks like, you know, it's a healthy tree, but the concern I have with the tree is that all of the growth is on one side of the tree. I don't know if the picture's a little deceiving there, because you're seeing some branches here. I think that's the other pine, you know.
Right,
that's-
it is. It's all on one side.
So the concern with a wet snowstorm or an ice kind of event especially, is that the one-sided trees, or you could call them edge trees, only can get growth on one side because that's the only place they can get sunlight.
Right.
Trees are phototrophic, everything is growing toward the light. So the concern is if we have the right kind of event, the tree loads up with snow, and if we're lucky, we lose some branches, and they fail onto the house because it's very close to the house. If we're not lucky, the snow loads up on the tree, and the top starts to bend over, and it fails about a third of the way up the tree. So if you went through the report there, that's basically what I'm trying to talk about on those trees. Do you have another picture of the other bigger pine?
That's not.
Yeah, can't, I think I've got a couple of photos in the,
Yeah, you do. So this is, I mean, it's hard to tell
yeah, I
from
don't,
here it is, but the other one is this one, which also has all the growth on one side that goes towards
Yeah.
76 South
yeah,
Shore.
one, the growth is entirely over 76, the other growth is entirely over 72 on the other tree. Now, if you're trying to manage that kind of a problem, okay, and saying, well, what do we do to mitigate this? It's kind of tough to prune that because the growth is going to continue to be only on one side of the tree. In other words, because it's a sunlight-related issue, and it's not an unhealthy issue from a tree health point of view, but because it's a one-sided growth issue, it's very, very difficult to mitigate. In other words, you could say, well, let's go up and try to thin some branches out. It really doesn't do too much, and the continued growth will go that way. So it's kind of a tough thing to deal with. So that's what I came up with as far as the mitigation for those two trees. In my opinion, it's best to remove them, okay, and remove them in a fashion without damaging the understory. There's quite a few smaller trees growing up there, so it's kind of like just a management to take out the two one-sided trees that are threatening the house and the property, and then let the other ones grow. And I don't think, and I would by no means consider having the stumps removed because we want to maintain the slope and. Let's see. Now the other tree, we should have a picture of the stump of the tree that failed.
Yeah, I
kinda-
had another picture.
Was kind of close to.
Can't really see it here, but
Yeah.
there's a stump here. I think, right, a large tree
Yeah.
did fail.
Yeah.
Left that opening there.
So you can see that with this photograph, you can kind of see how close the homes are, and so it's just the idea is just managing things before you have an event, and I don't know. That's not my flagging tape up there, right? That's
No, these were a couple dead trees that this homeowner asked for a few months
Okay.
ago by the road. That's right by the road
okay.
that we already approved.
And then we had one other tree that I looked at, which was a sweet birch, which is, if you could see, you can see the trunk right about there. The sweet birch is a two-stem tree, 2 leaders connected with a wheat crotch connection. And the fear from that tree is, of course, failing at that connection, and with each one stem going one way and the other stem going the other way. But in that case, I think a support cable would certainly be the mitigation for that. I feel very comfortable with that. on protecting that tree.
So that one isn't proposed to be removed at this time, it's just the two large pines. So I did go out there, and there is quite a few mature and, as you indicated, immature trees underneath there, and you can see where that other large pine that did previously fail and was removed, that it did leave that kind of opening, so I did see the growth on the one side as he indicated in his report, so. And there is quite a few trees on the bank going down here, and there still would be a few large pines. There's a small hemlock here, and a lot of small deciduous immature trees there too, so. There's a lot of trees there.
Yeah, if you want to, on page 12, I can pass this around. This is that's a tree failure from a wet snowstorm in Andover last winter, okay? But it's a one-sided white oak tree that just 12-inch oak. You get the right amount you get enough weight, and then you've got an issue. So that's what we're concerned about with just the architecture of the two trees that we're talking about. Any questions on?
What's your recommendation?
I mean, I think that based off his assessment, there's eminent risk or high impact if they do fail on these houses. There is a good amount of trees in that area. I did look to see if there would be somewhere on the property for replacement, except for maybe where that one other tree already came out. There's a lot of trees there, so it seemed like there's a lot of canopy already there. Didn't see the need for a replacement right at that location, probably with additional trees, but.
How about room for shrubs down by the lake? Anything?
So the bank going down was quite well vegetated. There's a lot of understory there right now. This area has a lot of the ground cover. It looks like Pachysandra or something here. Looks like they're kind of using that as yard, but there is a lot of growth down on that portion. So unless it was up in kind of that developed yard Pachysandra area, it seems okay.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't think I would try to plant anything in the root systems of these other trees. I mean, you know how those, it's a woodland situation where it's just solid roots underneath those trees, so it'd be difficult to, you're doing root damage by trying to dig a hole to plant
That's a good point.
plant a shrub or a tree, so.
Paul?
Seems fine.
Steve? I'm fine.
Would there be an advantage to taking down that pair of sweet birch instead of cabling?
Well,
Since the overstory looks like it's blocking out the potential for vigorous growth.
yeah. It's, I looked at it as clearly as a tree risk thing and what kind of mitigation could make it safe. And by the way, on this report, okay, is based on a 2-year time frame. Over time, we've got growth and different changes, and I would maybe relook at that again, but it's, I wasn't trying to recommend to take trees down, but it certainly is something to think about. I mean, I don't know if the homeowners care about that tree or not. It's, but it is a cable is, can make the tree safer. What the goal is to, you have a problem with that, with a two-stem tree like that, when the two stems act in the wind independently. So the cable kind of holds them together, like Abe Lincoln said, divided we fall, united we stand, But if, in the same way, it's helpful in a weight issue, okay? But as the trees grow, okay, the cable is something that should be managed. In other words, at some point, the cable may have to be raised higher in the tree. I mean, it's not like a permanent situation, and and if it's installed properly according to ISA guidelines, it's not going to affect the health of the tree. In other words, you want a landscaper tying a rope around the tree and having a different issue.
No, we've had cabling issues in town already.
With cables failing or
No, working well.
working well, yeah. In fact, I think I installed a lot of cables in this cemetery and the other one. Go back.
Distance to the house seems very close. What does the ISA say about the fact that you're gonna pull two of the largest trees out of that area? And what vulnerability is going to be created for the other trees? Because they're not gonna have the defense of those two trees.
Well, the ISA, in this case, we're looking at tree risk, okay? And we're looking at, takes into account the condition of the trees and the target, in this case, which is the homeowners and their property. So, in that respect, by putting it through their system, and it's the latest system, but it's, I think the ISA supports that, okay? Now, as far as the effect on the other trees, I don't think there'll be much effect, because what we're worried about is not so much of a wind thing as a weight thing. And these are just, you know, you cut a hole in the forest, the tree on the edge has all growth on one side. Okay, over time, you have a big snow or wet ice event, that tree falls into the field. And those kind of events, you look down the field, there's 10 trees in the field.
Right.
The rest of the forest isn't affected by that. You clean those 10 trees up on the field and everything is the same. Now, because of these, the second tree has more equal growth because the first tree was,
Well, but aren't you creating first trees by doing this?
well, these are mature trees at this point. So.
I'm not talking about the two trees you're cutting down, I'm
Yeah.
talking about.
No, I
the
mean,
ones
but
that
the
are left.
remaining trees are mature trees.
And they'd be first trees.
But they're not gonna be the same, because you're not gonna, those lower branches, you know, you're not gonna get growth off the lower side of the tree. So I think it'd be a long time before you'd have a first tree issue, okay? I mean, if we're looking at, herbaceous plants or smaller trees or shrubs, you'll create the first tree faster. But you're not, it's gonna take a long time to do that, because now as these taller trees, part of the top of the tree is shading the lower parts of the trunk, and you're not gonna get growth off that lower trunk. So in my opinion, it'd be quite a long time before we create the same condition that we have now. So and it kind of pruned itself out a few years ago when you lost the one tree from the same kind of storm. So it's kind of, so what we're trying to say, well, what I'm trying to describe is maybe rather than wait for the failure, let's manage it before the failure. And then in this case, the management is removing that tree, but letting everything else start to grow below it.
All right.
I move that we approve the cutting of the 2 trees and the cabling of the pair of sweet birch.
Sweet birch.
I'll second that.
Any discussion? All in favor? All opposed? All right, we're all set.
All set?
Thank you, Mr. McCarthy.
Okay, thank you.
Public hearings. In the interest of saving time,
I'll send him a letter, so.
The Sturbridge Conservation Commission will hold all public hearings tonight for work within a wetland, water body, or resource area and/or within the 200-foot buffer zone to a wetland, water body, or resource area in accordance with the Massachusetts Wetland Protection Act, MGL Chapter 131, Section 40, and associated regulations, and the Town of Sturbridge Wetland Bylaws and associated regulations. We will not be reading the newspaper ad. Prior to opening the first hearing for each project, the applicant is to submit proof of notification to abutters within 200 feet of the subject property line and proof of legal newspaper advertisement. If these items are not submitted, the public hearing will not open. Additionally, prior to the start of each public hearing, we will announce the location of the project, the applicant, and the applicant's representative. If any of the visitors have not legibly signed in yet, please do. Also, if any visitors are recording this meeting, please let us know. Thank you.
All right, notice of intent, DEP number 300-1028, 32 Tantascwa Shore Drive, building alterations and new deck. Representative Talbot Engineering. Brochu. Peter Brochu. Hi, Lenny.
Good evening, man. Leonard Jalbert from Jalbert Engineering. Before we get started for the Mr. Brochu's property, I'd like to present the certified abutters list and the legal ad that was placed in the Southbridge News.
And while he's doing that, Mr. Brochu, would you introduce yourself to
Thank
the
you.
general public, please?
Yes, my name is Paul Brochu. I reside at 32 Tantascwa Shore Drive.
Thank you. Thank you.
Leonard Jalbert from Jalbert Engineering. Before we start with the submittal for the notice of intent, I'd like to make a couple things ascertained before we proceed. Number one, there was a violation in construction on the site, which the banking area, which is basically adjacent to the lake itself, was cleared, and they brought in a specialist to put plantings in on the slope, and the property was also found to be in a habitat area, which was filed with the department relative to the environmental area, which you have in your packet now. We have submitted 7 photographs delineating the position of the photographs throughout the complete site to send to the board for their review. Also, a packet showing the planting, which is on the drawing now, and the impact that was on the property. In doing so, on the northerly side of the property, if you look at the point of the north arrow, there was a wetland delineation that was omitted on the original submittal. The wetland area itself is down gradient from the position property. However, between the road and the wetland area, it's uphill. So the drainage pattern from the site to the wetland area at this time is not probable because of grade changes. However, we did locate the wetland area. The wetland area itself is basically on the northeast and northwest corner of the property, at approximately 65 feet from the corners of the property. The new 100-foot buffer zone was placed on the drawing and was resubmitted to you under revision 1. Also, the area for the 100-foot buffer relative to the wetland on the property on the northerly side was placed on the property. All improvements relative to the original submittal was part that there was nothing within the 100-foot wetland area other than the position of the 8x12 shed, which was encroaching within the 100-foot area on the northerly side. To clarify any discrepancy to the submittal, under revision 1, the shed itself was placed in a southerly position of the 100-foot buffer of the Wetlands Protection Act for the Commonwealth of Massachusetts. Looking at it and figuring the position of the submittal is the 200-foot buffer, which is the jurisdiction of the town of Sturbridge. The property itself encompassed the 200 feet from the lake itself. So it had actually no impact in submitting to the Department of Natural Resources. The Department of Natural Resources have not commented relative to it. However, we feel that the impact is such that it's not going to impact the layout of what we're presenting. If there's any questions on that, please reserve them. And then I'd like to at least present the property itself. What we plan to do on the property itself is to go into the building area, basically on the southerly portion. We're going to go with an area right here on this area here, which is actually a carport, which is opened underneath, and the second floor, there'll be a second story on this, which will become part of the house itself. The front of the building will be right here, will be a 24 by 24-foot garage that he wants, that he has no garage presently, which will be adding to the house itself, with a living area above the garage. The 8 by 12 shed, which is going to be constructed, is actually exempt because of its size. It's under 100 square feet for the town zoning, but it would be placed on the northeasterly side of the property. That would be placed basically on concrete blocks, so would be no excavation relative to any placement of the shed other than the concrete block set on grade just for balancing the shed itself. The building itself right here, in this section right here, is an existing deck. The extension of the deck will take place on this side, which will be above the carport itself, and then there would be an area to the right of it, which would be extending basically near the end of the house, which the porch will be extended to this section over here to the house itself. All work within the area here is like this area in here would be around 27 feet from the property line. This area over here on this side would be about 23, 24 feet, which is all within the constraints of any setback, so no variances or anything will take place on the property. The only thing that will take place is a hearing with the Conservation Commission relative to the site itself, because of the fact that, number one, the frontage is undersized, number two, it is under area. However, no variances will take place and no changes will take place other than the conditions relative to zoning. So we're not asking for anything from the the Zoning Board of Appeals for anything, so I anticipate no changes relative to anything. Going to the bank itself, right in here, there was an extensive area of cutting and clearing in this area, and that area was replanted by a landscaper with this planting right in here. It went basically, 18, 20, roughly 30 different plants were in this area to encompass from the water to the upper side here, which they're all delineated on the plan. But I'd like to make one thing emphatically clear, is that the person, landscaper, who prepared this particular plan has the water here, which is basically up where the water here is down. So it's actually 180 degrees opposite, but for clarity, it's placed this way so you can at least read what is there and what is there. So that was done. The stairs themselves here are basically in a place that would be least amount of impact in the area, which there's no trees that would be removed within the placement of the walkway itself. That's why it's this way here. It might come down and into here, and then from here, basically, it's basically in a flat area along the shore in here. The property has a temporary dock which was placed on the site here. I don't know if you've seen it. If you walk the site, there was a dock that was placed here on a temporary basis. It is now located adjacent to the shore right here, with anticipation that it would be placed again this coming spring on a temporary basis in that particular area. Nothing would be done as far as grading or anything. The dock itself would be set on grade with no excavation and just placed in the water. The stairs, which are basically on the shore of the line right here, was a matter of placing 2 or 3 concrete blocks, which were at best precarious and dangerous. That will be removed, and it'll be done with a detail, should be here, oh, right here, that's going to be, we'll be putting in pressure-treated stakes in the ground with steps to the shore to protect the banking with the clearance between it, so there's continuity throughout the whole shore. The site itself is serviced by a present septic system, which is here on this side, with a leach field over here on this side. There is 2 trees which are located immediately adjacent to the leach field itself, which is right in here. One of them is about 12 inches in diameter, the other is 5 inches in diameter. We'd like to have those 2 trees, which they're marked on the plan, to be removed because of the evasive amount of impact within the leach field area itself. We want to just take those 2 out. The 5-inch I consider nothing, but the 12 is major, and it's right on the bank, and I think those 2 should be removed. If there's any questions, I'll be happy to answer them.
All right, Becky, you're on.
Alright. So, you know, as Lenny had indicated, this kind of started as enforcement with the cutting on the bank, and we had gone out there, talked about revegetation of the bank, and also asked what other kind of plans in the future. So the intent was to wait, come in with a notice of intent, which you guys did. The replanting already occurred out there. We did see that, and thank you for adding that to the plan. So when we got the filing, I had sent an email out with some questions about particular things, which resulted in the revision to the plan. The wetland on the north side was included in the plan. I'd asked some questions about the shed, so Lenny did answer that. I didn't know, you know, any grading required or whatnot, but it's going to be on blocks. That was one of the questions I had. I did have a question about the dock. I do think that should be shown on the plan so that we can include that as our approval, even though it's temporary.
The dock itself is temporary, and it would be just placed here in right adjacent to the stairs, obviously.
Yeah, but I mean, I think it should be shown on the plan, just shown.
You could,
yeah.
if you wanted it.
Yeah,
we could
just
put
show it
it
as
on.
temporary, because even with the temporary ones, DEP, you know, indicates that at least the request for determination of applicability should be done for those, because it actually can be impact to bank or land underwater. Usually because it's temporary, it's something that's not usually of a concern, but it's still, because it has that impact, needs to be on there. So I think we can include that with this review. So we just show that, and that, you know, how it's being anchored, just a little bit of information for that. I had asked for the planting plan to be incorporated, so this is kind of the first time we've seen the sketch of this with the different species. There are 30 plants that did go in. Since the cutting, all of the, when last time we went out there, we saw last 2 times, the mountain laurel, the roots weren't pulled and the stems weren't cut too far back, so it's actually growing back pretty good. So I think that the upper part of the bank looks pretty good. The one part we didn't talk about is the lower part of the bank. So I had some questions, and we can look at some photographs of that. As far as the additions, for the local bylaw, they're not within our 50 foot, so they're outside of that. They do show appropriate erosion controls in the plan. He has drip strips for roof runoff on those to be implemented. Now the carport, would that just be footings for that with a natural base underneath, or is that
That's all it would be. Basically, there'd be piers and footings right there for that, and
Okay.
it's all opened underneath.
Okay, and then foundation on the garage?
That is correct. The only
Okay.
place that you would have actually any foundation taking place is in the area of the garage, which
Okay.
is this section right there.
Okay, that's what I assumed, but I wasn't sure. As far as the stairs going down, I do think that the stairs on that steep bank will be a good improvement to help stabilize that. Looks like there probably was some steps there before. We saw some old.
There was,
Yeah.
Now,
So-
is this, those stairs, as I see them on there, are those going to be where the
path.
walkway is now?
Basically, yes, that's where
What
it's
does
shown.
basically mean?
Well, it's right there, that's in the area, that's where it is, that's what's gonna be.
It's
yes.
going to be where the walkway is going down now.
Correct, you can see
So
there's
they're not
no,
gonna excavate into a
No, I
different
said-
area?
no, I said there'd be no trees or anything removed within that area. That's the purpose of where they are right now, it's staying where it is.
I don't know, you cut me off, forgot where I was, no,
Sorry.
I'm just kidding. No, so the stairs going down, but one thing we had talked about, right, was the concrete block steps that were put in down there. And then taking those
The
out,
concrete blocks will be removed.
yeah, and doing something else. So I think that's an improvement for that.
It's right here, if you look, it's right now,
Yep.
we're actually putting pressure-treated things in here with stair treads going.
And that's gonna go in the
right at
same
that side.
footprint as the concrete blocks, is that the plan,
The
or?
concrete blocks are gone.
Okay, but that's where the stairs will go?
That's where the concrete blocks are right now, where you can see.
And that's
it.
where those stairs will?
That's where those
Okay,
stairs are
that
going,
wasn't
yes.
clear on that. I mean, there's kind of a gap, so when you're walking up here, I mean, it does flatten out here, but it is kind of steep. It seems like where the stairs would stop, so I thought maybe could be a good opportunity to maybe include a couple more steps down to those stairs, or some type of landing that maybe goes to the dock, because it is that the whole banking right there is kind of open still, so it was one thing, an observation at the site visit, that maybe something changed like that could be good and help stabilize the bank in the long run with some planting there.
Can you pull up the picture? That might help to, the picture you took? Oh,
Well, he took it, but I have some older ones that I still had
I forgot.
in here. Let's see. But I have
Yeah.
yeah.
That's better.
Yeah.
I have a few other ones too, but I mean, it does flatten out a little bit, but it's still kind of steep in that area. All this upper portion's growing back, but this is, I mean, we still have the erosion controls up, which might be helping this, but this could be benefited by maybe some plantings, and then even down here a little bit, and letting all the vegetation along the shore here grow back outside of maybe where the dock is and stairs or whatnot.
But have you seen a plan for any planting in that area?
Well, all the planting there is no plan for any
There's-
additional
right,
plantings.
It's all away from that area.
Right, it's all up on top of that kind of steep area, so maybe that could be a good opportunity to include some plantings down here,
Yep.
especially if it's getting a lot of use down there too.
Right?
Yep.
Paul?
I'm still a little uncomfortable with what's happening with that bank. It seems that I think something more needs to happen. I'm not exactly sure what, maybe some more plantings or something, but right now when we were there the other day, I mean, you can't really,
You wonder why it's there.
it's there, and it sure doesn't feel very comfortable or very safe or anything. Something needs to happen. I'm not
Yeah.
sure exactly what, but something needs to happen with that bank.
Yeah, I agree, if it's my turn. Yeah, I agree. You done? I agree that the bank is.
It's just
something. And also, are you gonna put pressure-treated wood in the water?
No,
Okay, thank you.
How
That's all.
close to the water?
maybe 10, 15 feet.
Or will the stairs,
made a
that
comment-
shore detail?
You made a comment of something replacing those concrete blocks, and I thought that was
It's just like stakes that are going, pressure-treated stakes that are going in the ground. If you look, it's right there. That's all it is. It's 2 stakes, it's 4 stakes, actually.
Going into the ground at beach level?
Yes. Well, into the ground, well, basically within the bank itself. It's, if you look right here, there's the water level right here at this point, and there's the stakes there and there above water level.
Well, they're certainly in the water. If
Oh,
they're-
definitely. They do go in the water, obviously.
Right, so I'm not sure that's allowed. I mean, I know that there's a reason why you're using pressure-treated wood, but I don't,
We can change it to aluminum or something like that for stakes, if that's what you want.
I'm a little, I can look at the regs, but it seems to me that that's something that would, creosote and pressure-treated wood both have been sort of out, on the outs in terms of something like that. I'd much rather see, unless I'm wrong about the regs and common sense, I'd like to see aluminum, but I don't know that's,
We can change it to aluminum, no big deal.
Would there be any opposition to maybe doing stairs off of the temporary dock, and then you wouldn't need them in the bank? And if you walk onto the dock to get down, and then therefore it's
Would you eliminate the stairs?
temporary?
As long as we can get safely off the dock to the stairs, right?
Yeah,
However,
like-
however you'd like us to do that, and we can, get there safely, certainly.
And that might be something, so we still need to hear back from, it's Natural Heritage Program, so there's a rare plant in the lake that inhabits along the shorelines. So and that's why when we were discussing about stairs or whatnot, talked about something that, might be something to be more approvable by them, by something that allowed light through, that was minimal impact by like a post or something like that. I do agree about the aluminum, but if it, I mean, at this time of year, the water level's high, probably not going in the water anyway, so it's more when the water level's lower and you're using the dock. So if the stairs were off of the dock, then maybe they would also see that as a negligible impact or something, so.
You'd almost need some type of a bridge that would go up and down as the water rises and goes down, but whatever works for everyone.
For the dock, you mean?
yeah, I'm good. Thanks.
Steven? Me?
Yeah. Oh, David, I'm sorry. Got you, David.
The previous tree removal, you indicated that there was an area where serious tree removal took place? And was there a planting plan for that serious tree removal?
Well, it was primarily shrub with a couple trees by the shoreline.
Is that what that sketch is that's upside down that Lenny pointed out?
That's what was installed this past year,
Yeah.
They put 30 new plants in.
30 plants.
I had the same question as Steve did about the steps going into the water. Your portable dock is aluminum-based, isn't it?
No, it's some type of a polyethylene.
We should just, I think everybody has the same,
2 trees
Concern.
removed. Then he talked about taking 2 more trees down.
Right, there was right here, right next to adjacent to the house itself.
And that's how far from the lake?
Dave wasn't with us on the site visit. That's on the driveway.
The
going up
the
driveway.
12-inch and the 5-inch are roughly 105 feet from the lake itself. The 5-inch might be 110 feet from the
I'm just
lake.
questioning if there shouldn't be some replacement for those 2 trees.
yeah.
It's not a heavily treed area. And it is within our buffer zone.
It is, definitely.
But
There's right there. Yeah, they're basically, you can see they're right there in that corner,
Yep.
they're right there. The 100-foot line is just below it, right there.
My opinion is that the 2-to-1 replacement should take place for cutting down those trees.
Okay?
And last but not least, that area that we just flashed on the screen, that definitely needs help. A bio blanket or some one of the environmental covers for that, so that you're not going to get any kind of erosion while the plant life is taking over, and some kind of a plant plan for that surface, so that you know that you're not waiting for the birds to deliver the seeds for you already manure packed. You're actually doing something to make sure that specific plants are going to grow on that surface.
The plants right now will grow right there, and I think if you're cognizant of the fact that what was removed in there was a lot of laurel. They flush cut it. The root system is there, everything is there. You know they're gonna grow back.
It's a couple of feet above the ground on a lot of them.
That's a given. They will be growing back.
They will.
Most of them already have grown.
So you think that that ground surface is stable? Because it doesn't
Right.
look stable from the picture.
That's from when we first went out
I
there.
think right now with the fact with the laurel and everything is there, that this is gonna grow back, no problem at all. It's protected right now, which there's erosion control blanket on both sides. There's the blanket right in here,
So
on
here's
the
that
top and
stump.
bottom. Everything is done to protect any soil erosion. I think it's fine. If, you know, if you wanted this area here and the one down below, to stay there for a couple of years, then I said we can check it, and if there's any deterioration of those wattles, then put new wattles in. But outside of that, I think it's gonna grow back naturally.
And it will be laurel again.
Oh, definitely.
Okay.
Can you bring the plan back?
Yep.
So just to be clear, this is the 100-foot buffer from this wetland and back?
No. The,
This-
the 100.
Yeah.
That 100-foot buffer that you see right there is the one from the lake itself.
This one here is from the lake, but this, oh, or is it the opposite? This is from the lake and this is from the one in back?
This one right, wait, I can't really see this. Okay, right here. This is the 100-foot buffer itself from the lake, going
Yeah.
right from here. Okay, this one here, starting from this point, going this way, is the 100-foot from the wetland across the
Right,
street.
yeah, that's what I said. Okay,
Okay,
all right. So this shed actually lies outside of both of the 100-foot
yeah,
buffers?
correct. It's inside both, outside of both of them,
Right, okay.
By an inch and a half.
unless you paint it.
I want to be absolutely clear. Absolutely clear. These are the only two trees that are coming down.
That is correct.
Okay, no other trees are coming down. All right. I'm concerned about this too, and one thing that we discussed when we were on site is the possibility, because right here, this is just bare dirt at basically where you show the stairs ending. You've got just this patch of bare dirt right here.
Right.
And my concern is that's going to continue to be bare, and that's going to, you can see where it's eroded and it's gone into the lake from the bank eroding. So I would really like to see something done with that. Maybe, we talked about maybe putting just a real small deck right there. I don't know how the other
Yeah.
commissioners feel about that, but just something that you can
What kind of, like, what,
walk on, put a chair,
yeah, that'd be great, yeah.
something that, just so you're not walking on that dirt and,
So you
because I
don't
don't,
continue to deteriorate and break it away.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I don't just,
That makes sense.
Makes sense to me.
I don't want to see anything big. And then what I'd like to see with the rest of this is just make sure that all of this grows back, that we have, good, solid growth on all the areas outside of that little deck. So you got a place to sit by the lake, access your dock, but the rest of it you let grow and let come back.
And if there's some bare areas where, to put extra vegetation or whatever, I certainly, would do that, for sure.
I think we need to see a plan for that,
Yeah.
before we approve this.
That's
I'd
an
like to-
easy add-on.
What?
It's an easy add-on, and we can't really vote tonight anyway because NHESP is not
Well,
working through.
well, we can, because it's not under Wetlands Protection Act, it's only under the Mass
Oh, it's only
Endangered
under
Species
law.
Act,
Yeah.
so technically, under Wetlands Protection Act,
See-
you could, but it would be advisable, I think, to wait anyways, because you're gonna close the public hearing or whatnot, and we don't have anything from them, and if you revise the plan, you gotta send it to them, you gotta wait for their comment, and it'd be advisable to wait anyways.
See, the whole, from my point of view, are you serious?
Yep, I'm done.
From my point of view, my concerns are, I agree with Paul, I think we need additional plantings on the hillside. I've had a long history with laurel on my property, and it's great, it grows, it's great to have that on that banking, but I think we need additional plantings. Second, the execution of putting this stairway in is critical to the protection of the lake. How well that gets put in, how carefully it's done, is very important. And that it go in the area where you've already killed everything, rather than a new area of kill. And down at base, I wouldn't have suggested a little porch such as what Stephen has suggested, but something like that is necessary. Everywhere you ever go it has to be slightly back from the lake, for a couple of reasons. First of all, the lake's gonna go up and down, and water level's gonna go up and down, and you don't want it in the water. And then you have a ramp to your dock from that. And size should be very small. I don't think that it should be very large. And I think we need plans of that.
Before they walk away, though.
What?
Should agree to a size, Lenny. What size would you think is appropriate?
Should be 4 feet wide minimum.
And length?
That in the area?
4 by 6?
I'd say maybe, 6 to 10 feet, yeah.
Have it extend to the dock location.
I'll go in between, 4 by 8,
Yep, 4 by 8 would be fine.
And not a concrete pad.
and not a concrete pad.
Why don't
Right.
you say 4 by 8 max, and that gives him some flexibility in
Yeah.
case it really is not an appropriate size?
Right.
Yeah.
And that includes the area for the ramp down,
Correct.
so that it's on that.
Could there be stairs that come off the dock versus stairs off the bank as an option?
They'd be coming off the dock.
Okay.
Yeah.
They'd be
No
coming.
creosote lumber piling,
So I think if you brought that plan back, that would be, anything else we should, Stephen?
You know, the bare dirt, that soil that we're talking about, we have a deck above it, and it's still gonna be subject to flow
Yeah.
coming down, or whatever, so maybe that should be stone.
Rock, yeah.
The part of,
Just a pad of stone below that deck, just to protect it anyway, I mean.
So it's pervious, but so that it keeps it
You
from
can make that, you can
eroding.
make that deck itself stone, a pervious stone bed for the deck. Like a, should I say,
More like
quote, patio or
Like a
something?
patio, then,
Right. You
we
could
do the same thing,
Yeah.
do the same thing, correct.
because,
You
you
gotta
know, because
excavate.
if you put a deck
You
over
gotta
it in your.
excavate and.
What?
Not gonna get
That's your call. I think that the deck, the stairs that you have designed are
Yeah,
fine.
I'd almost rather see it on, something on pilings, just because then we can put stone underneath it, then you're not excavating, because I'm worried about the whole, if you put in a patio, you're gonna have to excavate.
go.
Yeah, exactly.
okay, well, right now, what the stairs are is that they're just on concrete piers, which is, there's a sonotubes, which is showing, just locating it. So, I mean, we could do the same thing with that walkway, which would be 4 by 8. We could put in
Did the
basically,
the
say,
stairs
4 more
just
piers.
went on sonotubes?
Yeah,
Is that the first time I've heard the word sonotube tonight?
It's on the plan,
Is it on the plan?
right there.
yes, it is.
Okay, great. Well, then we're all set.
Okay, I request a continuance for presentation of the changes that were submitted tonight by the board.
Any discussion to continue? All in favor? Thank you, Lenny.
Thank you.
Lenny, we'll
Thank
let you
you.
know the date and time for the next meeting. We'll send you an email tomorrow.
Okay, you're gonna let me know? Okay,
Yeah.
sounds like a plan.
It's gonna be the 15th, doesn't it?
Right, January 15th for the time,
Okay,
but we'll confirm that.
Happy holidays, gentlemen.
Yep, hope Santa's good. to you.
Merry
Thank you.
Christmas.
We'll see you next year. No pun intended, buddy.
So where are we at now?
Well, we have another public hearing at 7. I was trying to fit in a couple conversations between that public hearing and our next one.
Well,
We
fit
don't
'em
have
in.
much time.
Go
We
ahead.
can do a quick,
What?
are you Mr. Briggs? Yes. Oh, okay. Do you want to come up now, or?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, we can have a quick discussion.
Having a meeting on the
15th, January.
That's the next meeting.
That's the next meeting.
Robert Briggs, 3 Lad Road.
So at our last meeting, Commissioners, you asked that I reach back out to Mr. Briggs to find out what the status of the replanting plan was. So just a quick summary, I think you probably all remember, but 2016, there was some tree cutting that wasn't permitted, resulted in enforcement. A notice of intent was filed to do some restoration work. A permit was issued last year with the intent that the replanting plan would be initiated last year. I started doing some follow-up on it. In June, we had a couple conversations. A new landscaper was brought on board who looked at the site and had a suggestion to maybe to change the planting plan based off of new growth that occurred, et cetera. So I had been corresponding a little bit back and forth. The last meeting you asked that, follow up with them, has it heard anything in a little while from the landscaper. So Mr. Briggs did call, said he would come to the meeting. The landscaper did come in yesterday with a narrative kind of explaining what revisions he was suggesting based off of the site conditions. So I do have that. I got it yesterday morning, so I didn't get it to you yet. But if you want to pass them down so you can look at it, I can pull up the old plan as well to show what was on there. Just familiarizing myself with it. The original replanting plan was to put in about three trees, and there was 40 plants. It was a mix of shrubs and herbaceous plants. So as you can see, Mr. Montigny went out there. He gives a kind of description, a lot of things have grown in herbaceous, and there's a lot of young woody growth. He was thinking that to revise that plan to incorporate more trees and shrubs and not do the herbaceous based off of what was planted there. So, as I said, this came in yesterday. I guess I would recommend, as this, what we have on record, the plan is what was approved. They'd be seeking approval to change that. I think it'd be useful to look at it. I've gone by the site during the growing season. I didn't get out, but I just kind of was like, oh yeah, I remember this address, and looked at it. I did see a lot of growth, but like I said, I didn't stop or anything, so it might be useful to look at it before approving. I think there is some logic for what he's saying, but then again, I wasn't part of this process before, so I never saw the site and why the planting plan was proposed as it was, so.
Do we have a copy of the planting plan that has not been implemented for 2 years?
It's right here, so just gonna zoom in.
Some
So
way to
here's
put it.
the list.
Now it's big.
Like I said, it was about 40 plants, only 3 trees. I think it was 18 shrubs, and the rest was herbaceous, so. And then, I can zoom back out.
Well, one of the reasons I wanted the old planting plan to be put up is because the Montigny Landscaping is speaking specifically about facultative up, and you'll notice that several of those plants are fac up plants.
Do you want me to zoom into the list? Do you want me to?
I
no?
think we should be fine.
Okay.
Good question, then, why is Calvin changing what was being planned?
A lot of the herbaceous have come back, and he's saying now we probably don't need as many of those.
Oh, okay, so
We want to go,
so this is a lesser plan than he's going with here?
right.
I haven't seen the site. Have you, what's your thought on the site?
Like I said, I saw herbaceous, but I didn't get out and really look at things. I saw a lot of jewelry. Obviously, it was in flower from the vehicle from the
Yeah.
road. I think it'd be useful to look at it. Unfortunately, now we're outside of the growing season. You probably still see.
Well, since the last meeting, it wasn't just a matter of planning. We had a lot of removal to do of if you remember,
The stone wall.
recycled asphalt that was there, moving the stone wall back, which took a lot of money. After that, we had to wait for the money to come back. I talked with Calvin this summer. He said, well, let's see what comes up, which a lot of stuff did come back. So now, I talked in the fall, I said, what do you think? And he said, well, let's hit this in the early spring, which I was grateful for because, once again, money was an issue. So our plan is now to do the planting, but if we can get away with not putting as much in, because a lot of the old stuff has come back in 2 years. In fact, this summer, I mean, it looked like a jungle there. Now a lot of the stuff has died off, but it's coming back pretty good. But he's thinking more of more trees maybe instead of the herbaceous, and I don't know, he put a list on the letter there that you guys have.
Yeah.
But we still have to remember that that planting plan was agreed upon to remediate the removal of 39 fully grown trees that were taken off your property without a permit.
Right.
That can't be part of what gets tucked under the rug.
No, I'm not, and I'm not saying
Oh,
that.
you're not trying to do that. I
Yeah.
know that.
We're just,
But, yeah, so we'll take a site visit, I guess.
yeah, that would be a good thing, because if you look at it now versus what it was originally, you'll see some stuff came up, but the problem in the back part, it is pretty rocky, so to plant something there, it's gonna be a nightmare.
It's pretty shady too, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, in the summer, it does get very shady there. But yeah, I mean, if you guys wanted to come out and look, I don't know is it good to look at it now when things start to come up? It's up to you guys.
Well, they wouldn't be able to replant until spring. I think if there's no snow on the ground, we go out for our next site visits, we could stop by and look. But obviously, I think you need to look at it once things grow back in
It'd
the
be
spring.
better after things
So
start
I think
coming
maybe
up.
holding
I
off
would
until
think
spring,
I would
but
think we'd hold off till spring.
Right, and I'd want to see the proposed locations of these new plantings, I guess. If we
right, where Calvin proposes
Just-
to put
even
them.
just a sketch
We can
to see.
sketch,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, we could do that.
So let's plan on,
But the key was too, getting the wall and everything back. There is no erosion going down in there. Everything is held back. There is some grass there now, so that's a good thing.
where do you wanna go?
The grass seemed to have come in pretty
First
good
week
in
in
that
April.
area that you took the asphalt out
Yeah,
too.
yeah, it did. It was surprisingly, but kind of a small job has turned into quite a large job at this point, and more to go, but I'm not stalling, I'm just going as fast as I can with the means of, but Calvin's, he's gonna jump on it. I mean, according to the letter, we can do it first thing in the spring, as soon as the plants are available to buy, we can get back in there.
Okay.
But whether you guys wanna look at it now or then, it's up to you.
So I'd like to propose the first Tuesday in April. Site visit,
Yeah.
Sounds good.
and, meet there and take a look at it.
Okay. And then, you could just ask Calvin to do a sketch with his proposal where he proposed these, and it can
Okay.
even be maybe over this plan, which might be useful. Just to have
Yeah.
an idea to see,
Yeah.
because it's
You
already,
use the current blueprint
All
that
right.
I have.
Yeah.
Go off
Yeah.
of that, okay.
okay, so we'll, plan on that, and I'll reach back out to you, in March.
Okay.
To let you know, and we'll put it back on our agenda for the meeting after we go out on a site visit. And then you can have Calvin work on that, which will give some time, and maybe try to get that to us before that site visit, but I'll kind of coordinate, make sure I get in
All
touch
right,
with
that
you.
sounds good.
Okay.
All right, thank you.
All right,
sir.
thank you.
Mr. Briggs, thanks for coming in.
Happy holiday to you too.
Yes, same to you guys.
So we are a little bit past 7 o'clock, so we have a public hearing coming up, but we have a couple people here to discuss the Cedar Lake, which could be a quick discussion. If we don't mind, do we want to do that quickly or go right to a public hearing?
We'll do Cedar Lake.
Is that okay? Do you
Yeah,
mind?
I don't mind, no.
Mr. Clover.
Evening.
Back again.
Yes, for the record, William Clarity from Mass DOT. Rebecca had asked me, actually sent out an email to me recently, asking if I could come in this evening just to give the commission just a quick update. So I think the last time I was here, we talked about the next step in the permitting process is to obtain a Army Corps permit, and that's the information that I'm presenting this evening. The BSC group, again, was the consulting group hired to assist the district with obtaining the Corps permits. The survey is complete. What you're looking at here, of course, is just near the shoreline. Essentially, the Army Corps jurisdiction is what is referred to as the waters of the U.S. So anything that's below the elevation of that blue line is considered to be under the Corps' jurisdiction. So what we're looking at in the gray areas there, the hatched areas, is based on the topographical survey, is the material that has washed into the pond. So again, those gray areas are the material that we're proposing to remove. So anything that's below, again, that blue line, which is how the Corps defines their delineation, if you will, of the ordinary high water level. So the next step in the permitting process is to forward this information and the application form to the Corps, and hopefully receive their authorization to go forward with this work.
So Bill, has anyone from BSC Group looked at any other areas? I had gone out when the surveyors were there and kind of talked to them a little bit, and they had just indicated that they were, instructed to do this area. So I had mentioned some of the swale over here and then the other side of the road. So, I think it's great they got this on the plan, but I think we were looking for a little more information about those damaged drainage structures and, repairing them and what kind of impact they had as well. So when I went out there as well, I think they had indicated that they were actually surveying this swale over here, and then also, going up the slope here to the top of the pike where the new drainage thing was too. I had showed them the swale that comes out over here, that comes down along that access road. It's pretty damaged by the fence. So I think there's still some concerns with the other drainage things, which probably don't require an Army Corps permit. So it's good to see that this is moving forward. But I think we were kind of expecting some more information from them on everything that we kind of outlined that we wanted to see.
Well, this information that you look at is actually part of a larger topographical survey. This is
Okay.
just a very small segment. They actually did survey that side of the hill, if you will, the
Okay.
southerly side of the hill. So to answer your question, then my next step is to meet with the contractor, which we just recently awarded the contract, the drainage contract, and this work will be part of that contract. So the next step is for me to meet in the field with that contractor to sort of just work out the logistics of how we're going to access this area and remove the material.
Okay.
So at that time, we'll look at those other areas. I think the area that you're concerned about would be just to the west there of that gravel area that's identified as area equal 281 square feet. This area here, that's the bottom of a concrete swale that has been damaged. So the intent is to go in and to remove the broken sections of the concrete swale and replace that with a stone swale. That's right at the base of where this material has deposited. So I guess the remedial work would be, again, to remove this material, and while the contractor is there doing the dredging work, if you will, which is fairly minimal, we'll repair that damaged concrete swale.
Okay. All right. Well, that's kind of the information
Yeah.
we're looking for too. That
That's
hasn't
great.
been
Yeah.
disclosed yet.
But again, the reason for me being here this evening is just to make the commission aware that we're
Okay.
progressing on the core permitting.
Okay.
The next step, again, is to get out there with the contractor, kind of work out the logistics of removing the material, and at that time, we can look at those other issues.
Okay. So
Have a better handle on it.
would you have a plan then to kind of present what you're planning to do with these drainage swales in that area? So that way.
Yeah, and that, again, that'll be included on the larger, again, the topo exists,
Okay.
but again, I want to work out the details with the contractor.
Okay.
Now, one of the details that we're trying to work out is I believe that he'll be able to bring I don't know, could you go, I don't know, Rebecca, could you go back to the locust map? I don't know how helpful that'll be.
Do you want the aerial photo?
No, I think I can point
Okay.
here. So we can access the site, that location, from that access road, that
Yep.
dirt access road that I think a lot of the commission members have been, and I know Rebecca, you and I, that's how we access the site. So we think we can bring the excavator in at that location and remove the material from that side of the box culvert. Otherwise, we'd have to come in with a piece of equipment on the westerly side, a piece of equipment to get to that other material, which I think would be more of a challenge, because what is the status of, that's a town road?
That is a town road,
Yeah.
yeah, it is a,
But
yeah,
I-
it's a private property there.
Right, but I don't know, again, that's another logistical issue, whether we can, access this side of the box culvert
Could you use
from that side.
could you use the excavator with something attach that you load stuff onto and then haul over to the other
Well,
side? or
again,
bucket
and again,
over, or-
not to confuse the issue, but I think we can reach everything from this side. So I
Okay.
think the point is we don't have to go on the
west
westerly
side?
side.
Good.
At least with the equipment, the heavy equipment. And that's the hope.
You could, Beck, you could check on that, though, see if that's what that road is. You could just look on a map,
What are you talking about?
the access road in.
Yeah, that's the town sewer lines there, they've
Yeah.
already
Yeah.
been using
We've
that, that's not an issue.
we've actually walked that, and
Yeah.
you're right, they're right.
So
The
I
sewer-
would think that we'd have a right of way there.
Yeah, I think it's fine to use it. We
Yeah.
coordinated with
Yeah.
Greg Morris when they went in last time, so I don't think that's an issue to use that access way. But, just want to make sure too, they look at the other swale that comes out on this side, and then there's the paved swale that comes out into the stream that feeds into Cedar Lake there, and a lot of the pavement's broken on the end, and there's a lot of scour on the bank there. So I think, just want to make sure those things get looked at too.
We'll look at that at the same time.
Okay.
How long does Army Corps take usually?
Well,
back to you.
the good news is because these impacts are considered to be pretty minimal, the level of permitting is pretty straightforward. It's what they refer to, it's referred to,
Yeah, I think you put in that email.
and you'll see that, you'll see the copy of that submission, I think, Rebecca, that's what I said at some point I'll get a copy, but
Because
it's
it's less than 500
Okay.
square feet.
less
so,
than, 5,000 square feet, so. So
All right.
we're only less than 500 square feet here. So-
Anybody have any questions? Mr. B?
One question. You talk about this overall plan.
Mhm.
Is that the plan that BSC Group talked about when they were here with you last time? Which is going to specifically delineate the part of the project that you've already completed? So that we could potentially use that if we have another failure as an indication as to exactly what has taken place?
Yes. Well, that topo does illustrate the scour hole that was filled, and it does show the pad, the drainage pad at the top of the hill. We did pick that information up as part of that topo, and I'm still working with BSC in terms of how to address the other issues.
As long as we have a plan that we can use in case there's a repair that's necessary.
I haven't gone up to the top, but has anyone from Mass DOT been kind of checking in on that as we talked about before?
I think our maintenance crew has been out there. I have not been out there, I think, since you and I and Peter Reed from BSC were out there. But again, my hope is to be out there soon, weather permitting, with our contractor, take a closer look at the area.
Actually, I just want to make a quick comment. You actually said this, but I think it's important to note that we've got two distinct places where the erosion and the runoff, went into the lake. This part here is coming from that swale that,
It appears to be.
yeah, because it's separate from the one over here. So I think it's really important that we address this so that this doesn't, just happen again
Yeah.
this spring or
Yeah,
something.
so the nature of that material, it is a gravelly material, so it looks like it might have been the bed material underneath that concrete swale.
Yep.
Seems to be pretty consistent, because there is a distinction and a delineation between the gravelly material and the siltier material by the shoreline.
Yep. Yeah, I have a question and comment. That swale that's made out of, concrete or blacktop, I mean, that would not be allowed today. So to repair that and put it back the way it is really not, I think it's within our purview to say you cannot restore that like it has been. It has to be some sort of a level spreader, there should be some sort of a stone.
Well, that's the intent, is we're going to remove that part of the concrete swale that's deteriorated and broken up, and that section we're going to replace with a modified rock stone swale.
Okay.
Bill, do you think there'd be an issue because it's such a long stretch of paved swale that comes down that it's going to hit that and it's just going to erode, or?
Well, I mean that's really the intent, is really to dissipate the energy.
Mm-hmm.
That's the reason for the stone, and then you're creating that void space so the sediment drops out within the void space. So I guess to your point is it's twofold. Is that the intent with the stone is to
Yeah.
break up the velocity, and so the material drops out
Yeah.
and prevents the scour and the.
Yeah, no, I agree. It's just, it's such a long stretch where it's, picking up speed coming down. Eventually I know it's something that, talked about, repairs in the pike that maybe drainage improvements can be made in the future. Maybe it's something to think about that, I don't know how long it is, 1,000 feet plus of pavement that leads to that. I mean, I know there's a lot of like stone and debris, woody debris that's in there right now, which is actually helping slow it down, which is good. But it is something to consider that in the future, some improvements along the way would be useful.
Yeah,
long-term.
that actually, what we're proposing is pretty common practice as to what we're doing today when we do these retrofits.
Mm-hmm.
The stone swale.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I think it's
Yeah.
great. I just think there could be concern with the.
Put some 8- in there at the bottom of it, something like that.
And I'd like to see that. I don't know how far away from the lake you can get that, but the further away, the better, in my opinion, because I'd like to see that water infiltrated into the ground instead of being dumped directly into the lake.
Well, the other benefit of that swale, again, because there is a void space, it does infiltrate. There'll be a geotextile material, a fabric material that's pervious, and then there'll be the stone on top. So the benefit is, again, it will start to infiltrate as soon as it gets into that section of the stone swale.
Could it spread out a bit, like what Steve was talking about, more of like a spreader?
Yeah, we
at the
can
end, so it's not
take a
direct?
closer look at what we think the geometry there, the cross section should be once we're out there, get a better look at it.
We've been having serious concerns with everybody who comes in because they're still thinking about the Mass DEP certificate, which talks about 1-inch rainfall being a standard rainfall for 24 hours. And that is no longer the common rule of thumb. Because oftentimes, we don't get 1 inch in one rainfall. Instead, we get multiple times 1. And so the velocity, as these guys are pointing out, coming down that slope needs to be dissipated tremendously. I think you've got to have a really big pad.
And maybe some check dams.
Check dams.
Along the way.
Even check dams along the way would probably help to alleviate some of the velocity development that you're trying to take care of at the bottom.
Yeah. Again, that's a common practice we use within the stone swale, is the stone checks. That's common, that's what we are, that's the approach, the BMP, if you will,
Right.
that we're using
I guess we didn't know that.
currently.
I knew that.
Yeah.
Why didn't you say it?
I did. I just
Oh.
said, if that what they've got there would not be allowed.
Right.
And so they're gonna check dam and put a big pad at the bottom, level spreader, -8 probably.
I just
8
didn't hear the
minus, I
check
mean.
dam before.
Oh, sorry. The audience?
Nothing happy with the progress.
Okay, good. Good. Anything else, gentlemen?
Just the fact that there is progress.
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Bill, thanks for coming in.
Okay.
Yeah,
Thanks
thanks
a
a
lot.
lot. Really
Okay,
appreciate
folks.
it.
Again, happy holidays.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thanks for your patience.
Oh, no, I mean, for not asking any questions.
That
I
too.
did have one question.
No, sorry, I closed it.
My supper is waiting, Glenn.
I know,
But go ahead.
mine too, mine too. I was curious about how many cubic yards was coming out.
All right, now, we are at 7 o'clock now. Thank you.
Thanks for coming.
All right, 7 PM. Request for determination of applicability, 30 Lad Road. Proposed clearing and grubbing of a 400-foot by 400-foot area in order to establish Advantage Tree Enterprises logging operation represented by EBT Environmental Consultants, Inc. for application for M. Gagnon.
Thank you very much, Conservation Commission. Glenn Kowalski from EBT Environmental. Mr. Gagner is here. We did relook at the application after the site inspection, and I believe Rebecca and I possibly came to an agreement that it was Mr. Gagner as the owner and applicant. It did mention in the legal ad that Advantage would be putting their operation up there, which is owned by Mr. Gagner, but I believe the application was clear in who it was for, and it was Mr. Gagner. There was 5 locations on the application that mentioned him, and it just was a little bit confusing. Maybe we should have left Advantage totally off, but it did not say that they owned it, that's all, on the legal ad or in the application. So I believe our legal ad for that reason was clear or correct, and that's why we did ask Rebecca to keep us on the agenda.
Okay.
We have reviewed your forest cutting.
Please introduce yourself for the audience.
Both
Did you?
I did.
Okay, I'm sorry. I didn't hear it.
That's, no, Glenn Kowalski from EBT Environmental Consultants.
Sorry about that.
No, my fault, that's fine. I appreciate it. In reviewing your,
Well,
You're-
I'll take the legal ad, sorry, and the butter notifications. I see you have your hand. I just want to make sure at the
I
beginning
have
of
both
the
of those for
public
you. I
hearing.
apologize.
Thank
I
you.
gave them to Mr. Gagner and he wouldn't give them back to me, I'm sorry.
Thank you.
Under Chapter 9 of Forestry, the Sturbridge Conservation Commission regulations, revision adopted on November 28th, just now, of 18. Mr. Gagner, in reviewing this document, Mr. Gagner is intending to file forest cutting, and then, in that being said, he would ask for a continuance for 2 hearings to give him time to work with the forester, who he's talking to now, and get that in place, and then come back to you to continue discussing the RDA.
Okay.
Okay.
And,
So you want to include that, because I think that, yeah, the RDA was just for this landing area.
Yes.
So, I mean, it's up to
Right.
you, I guess. I mean, the RDA, you know,
Well-
we need to act within 21 days. So are you asking to revise the project description, or?
No, we'll ask for, we'll sign any paper that allows us to continue, which in other towns you can go over the 21 days as long as the applicant is
Correct.
requesting and agreeing to that. So we'll sign any paper saying that we'd like to come back and, on your second meeting, not the next one, but the meeting after. That'll give
And
us
then
time
do
to.
everything as one filing? Is that your plan?
She's asking if you're going to revise the filing.
Yes, we would be revising
Okay,
the
that's what
filing
she
once we
said.
do
So the
forest
answer is
cutting.
yes.
Thank
Okay,
you.
fine.
The answer
Okay.
is yes.
Okay.
All right, great.
And we won't do any other work, obviously, until we're concluded here.
All right.
Okay. And I guess we can look at when the foresty stuff is proposed, like we look
Yeah.
under the Forest Cutting Practices Act, the DCR, you know, we just look at it, and then, right, we have our local bylaw. But also, I think I gave you some information too, so the Board of Selectmen has a process, the Forest Harvesting Bylaw, which is a general bylaw. So there's that as well to keep in mind as when you're doing your plan as part of the process. But that's fine, if you want to, you know, continue it for now, that's
Yeah.
Please.
fine.
Anybody have a
It would
problem?
go into February.
All in favor?
Yeah, I just,
You
well,
know that, Glenn. It goes into February, because we only have one meeting in January.
Mr. Gagner?
That's fine. I'll be at Disney
Great.
on the 15th, if that's when your next meeting is.
January
January 15th is our
15th.
next meeting, and then it will be the second, I'm sorry, the
February
first Tuesday in February.
Yeah, so the first Tuesday in February works for me. I'll be in, the 15th, I won't be available.
okay,
good.
so,
We
All right.
appreciate that.
So just
Thank you.
to clarify, So I'm Matt Gagner, the landowner. So what I'm trying to do is, I'm gonna first get a forest management plan, get that buttoned up, and as part of that forest management plan, part of that will probably be a timber harvest. So that's where I'm at right now.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So I just wanted to add, so when we get filings in, we give them to the other departments for review. It's a common practice. So the town planner did comment on your application. She asked that, she just gave me an email. She asked that I give that to you just so you have it for your records. I printed copies for you guys too. She just noticed the Advantage Enterprises logging operation, didn't know what the intent was, considering it's rural residential, and just commented that she suggested a meeting with her and the zoning enforcement officer to go over it. She said if it's just a forest cutting plan, she had no concerns, but I wanted to share that with you because she did have those questions.
You get a copy of this?
I have
I have it right. I have it right here. Yeah.
We need one for Paul.
And then, so I just wanted to add to while we're here. I mean, we did have a letter in regards to the beaver dam. So I just wanted to discuss that we did look at that on our site visit when we were out there. I mean, obviously the beaver dam breached from some cause. It's unknown at this time, but we did look at that. You know, for the modifications of the water level, it's unknown what happened. We don't know. But I just wanted to also indicate, we talked about a couple other things you were interested in doing out there, potential agriculture with the fields on the other property. And, you know, mentioned that, you know, there are a lot of wetland resource areas there. So if you're planning on reclaiming areas that aren't in agriculture, be, you know, not useful, but required to kind of contact us first, especially because of all those resource areas, to see if those type of things need a filing. It's pretty close to riverfront over there too. So, I mean, Glenn knows, but I just want to reiterate it because it's something we did discuss out in the field when we had our site visit.
So, so if I may, yeah, so, the only activity that I would like to do, without really having to go before the board is the field's getting tall with the grass, so I'd like to go and be able to mow the field. I'm definitely within, 100 feet or the 200 foot, but there's fields that currently exist. So I'd like to mow the grass, but that's, the pastures. But I'm not talking about cutting trees or any wood fiber things like that. So I don't know if I have to come see you for that or.
Well, if it's existing agriculture and it's been being maintained and you continue to maintain in agriculture, that most of the time is an exempt activity. If it's been let go and it converts to an early successional field, technically it's not agriculture, it's not a commodity anymore. So technically it would be a reviewable activity. Is it a permittable activity? Absolutely. Just, something with an RDA for that approval, especially because it is really close to the water's edge there too. So just with what your plans are for that should be included.
So to cut the grass, I have to come see you now? Because it's been, in my opinion, it's been maintained the whole way through. There's no woody vegetation. It's just the grass is, 3 feet tall.
Well, if it's agriculture, then what are you gonna do with the grass?
For this mowing right
hay?
here, I would, eventually what I'd like to do down there is hay and push the fields back to their original limits and get serious about haying over there. But right now, the grass, you can't even drive in there. You could drive in there, but the grass needs to be cut. So.
I think Becky made the call. You gotta have an RDA. You're gonna make sure you're mowing the grass and not.
One time anyway.
Yeah.
The area where you backed in with your mower, where you said so the kids could go in, that was not grass.
No.
That's not
That was
the
a well.
area.
That's not
Okay, all right, I'm just trying to clarify.
Yeah, and I
If
think,
it's up on Lad Road up in that other area,
Yes, and that's what he's talking about.
It's
yeah,
the fields.
That's a field.
That's been mowed already recently.
Yeah.
Yes, from
That's not
49
something-
going in, a quarter mile, if that's 800 feet or something on the right there, there's a couple of posts sticking up
Yep.
where the pigs used to be.
Right.
I believe it was a.
That's where the pigs
That's
were.
where he's talking for the field. We did delineate that for the previous owner, Salou, and did the mean annual high water. I'm rechecking those flags this winter. We're gonna get that on the plan,
Yeah,
but that is the field he's describing. No other area where you just mowed a little bit.
yeah, that would be, normal that you.
well, I think
be able
if
to
part
mow
of it
that.
is has
long-
been being maintained as a field, but I think a lot of it in the back has grown in. It's not a field anymore. That's unclear. I don't know. I haven't been on that site, but driving by, it doesn't look like it's a, sections have grass, but it doesn't look like a field anymore. It looks like
Yeah.
it was, someone let it go. It's early successional now. So I think that conversion back, but I think we'd have to look at it a little bit more.
We can take a look at it. We've got time. It's not gonna be growing for a while.
But is it clear what he can and cannot do? Let's just make sure before we walk out the door, we've had a discussion
For
here.
the time being, yeah, he would have to come to us with an RDA.
Okay.
To file on that between now and February 5th, which. you know,
I'm just saying,
if you're mowing-
because Mr. Gagner was asking not to do that. I want
Right.
to make sure that he understands that you have to do an RDA for the reasons that we've talked about. Some of it is no longer a grass field, it's not clear.
Yeah, I just don't
And we
think
just
it's-
want to make sure.
This debate
At
is
the
one
edges.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so it's
Here's
clear
what-
it's like grown in a lot throughout here. I think there definitely is some areas that are still grasses, but I think it's
Yeah,
kind
right
of an
up in-
early successional field at this point.
Move the arrow almost directly straight south from where it is right now, right down to the edge of the water, right there, and now move it to the right where that little bulb is, right where that white arrow is right
Yeah.
now. Just to the right of that, about 8 to 10 years ago, was a Bobcat Den. And she raised 3 pups there for 2 years. Right there, because you could drive down Lad Road, stand on the opposite side of that pond with binoculars and look right at the bloody den. It was incredible. And at night, periodically, you'd hear her roaming.
Oh, yeah. So they say there's a bear in the neighborhood?
Well, if you come to my backyard, you can see some of our bird feeders that have the crunch on them.
Yeah,
We've seen them.
yeah.
He's got a white rump, and he's got a big white section on his nose, so he's probably 8 to 10 years old. And he comes back routinely because he hits ours, he hits the house across the street, and he continues going down toward the pond.
All right, I want to move this along.
I'm giving you a history lesson here.
Got my bird feeders twice.
Okay,
Yes,
Um,
you have a
so we have a
bear, you have
continuation.
moose.
and we will be continuing to, what, February 5th?
Yep, Glenn, do you want to
Yeah.
just send us an email saying that
Yes,
you're asking
yeah.
for that to have it?
I'll
Okay,
call
and
you
I'll,
up as soon as I leave to make sure it goes out tomorrow,
okay.
All right,
February 5th.
thank you very much. Thanks for coming in,
Thank
guys.
you so much.
Happy holidays, guys.
Good holidays. Good Christmas, thank you. Thanks, man, I got one more to go.
So now we are at 7:15 easily.
Yep.
This
Is
time
anybody coming
tripping
in
is
for
wonderful.
51 Technology Park?
Thank
Just
you.
Glenn.
Oh, Glenn, okay, I'm
Yes.
sorry. Notice of intent, DEP number 300. Do we have
Good night.
a number on it? TBD?
Nope, there's no numbers been issued from
Okay.
DP yet. They probably just haven't got to it yet.
51 Technology Park for the reapplication to construct a 2-story, 20,000 square foot industrial building. Appurtenances, how do you say that? Oh, well. Which includes parking, utilities, stormwater management, landscaping, and erosion control.
It's appurtenances.
Appurtenances, right,
Yeah.
yeah,
Associated stuff.
Additions to what we're
yeah,
asking for, the initial building and then the
Yeah.
other things go along with it.
go for it.
And thank you again. This was-
Thank you.
Thank you again. We did contact Denise Child today to see where that file number was, and also a couple of days ago. I sent that to Rebecca, if you did see Denise Child's comments, maybe not. I asked my office to,
No, I
and if
didn't.
they didn't, then it's our error. Today, it was late in the day.
I
Denise,
got here about 5.
yeah, well, then we'll have to shoot the office. I told, and literally, we told them to send that email over to you because it was just her explanation of why they hadn't put it out yet.
Oh, okay.
There's some kind of adjudicatory hearings going on, the reviewer, we're not sure we can get to it, but we're gonna try to, Glenn, I can't guarantee. And that was, so I said, send it to Rebecca so she sees what Denise is saying.
Okay.
So we have attempted to, we didn't get it, and I believe, obviously, we're not gonna go anywhere without that file number and any comments by DEP. We did have the site inspection. I believe the commission was possibly satisfied in that we're just reapplying for the original permit, the original industrial parcel. And I would ask for a continuance on that one after any comments the commission has, to give DEP enough time to issue that file number. This had been permitted in the past. Judy Schmidt, in fact, I saw her this afternoon. I was at DEP at the end of the day. And maybe she's the reviewer. She was just coming in. And she had...
Any comments from
She had
anybody?
originally looked at it,
No.
delineated it.
It's, how's that Hyundai working out for you?
Oh, it's gone. It's gone. I'll tell you, the gas mileage on those things, though, is so good. I mean, I can see why people drive them. You don't put anything in them for a week.
So we'll give you
Please.
continuation on this.
Is there any question?
Can I talk? I'm just kidding. Well, I was just gonna summarize, but I think you already know, it was approved in 2008.
Yeah.
It was amended in 2013. An extension was given in 2015. It expired. When it was approved in 2008, there was a lot of talk about the stormwater management. The regs changed at that time. They did revise it based off that. So it should still be sufficient for what was approved at that time. They have a construction pollution prevention plan. They have a long-term O&M plan that actually even has funding, or what funding is needed for the activities, which is really nice to see. You don't see that very often. One thing I was going to give you, Glenn, is
Yes.
I came across this, I think you had looked for a stormwater report.
Yes,
Came
ma'am.
across another one in the file that was last revised April 2008. I think the one that you had that
Was
the owner must
earlier.
have was earlier one. So I had two copies. I'm going to give you one. I don't know if DEP's going to want it. They might need it.
I will take that and scan it and send them that copy
Yeah, 'cause
tomorrow
they might-
before
she
they
might
finish
need
their
this.
review, to show that the thing is up to date.
Yeah.
It's funny that the stormwater, originally with Para, was 2 of 08, I believe, and stormwater changed in 4 of 08. So
Yeah.
that's why it was revised.
Yeah.
Your stormwater regs changed within 2 months after the initial Para submission.
Yeah. So they might need this. So you
I
can have it.
appreciate so much.
Oh, you're welcome.
Great.
That's all.
All right, thank you.
All right. So we'll continue to January 15th.
Yeah.
We'll give you a time
Thank you.
when we go in the office.
January 15th, and the other one's on the 5th of 2/5.
Yeah, we'll send you an email of both those. Yeah.
Thank you, I'll get that back. After this is concluded, if I briefly, half a minute if I had. It's only on Howard, just because you guys might be wondering, and you did ask the other guy, well, is that core process lengthy? We should have that answer any day from core that we're all set. There was a glitch in the abutter notification. We did a certificate of mailing in core under 310 CMR 9, not 10, which we are. They do not accept certificate of mailing. It's hand delivery or certified mail. We sent it out to the abutters. The Sushi is the name of the lady dealing with it at Chapter 91 DEP. She called us out on it. We immediately sent certified mail. And also the abutters under core, if you didn't know that, you might know it, but they're not 100 or 300. It's the butter to the left and right, and anybody that's, if by chance the body wide is less than 50 feet wide, it's anybody within 50 feet across the water body. Of course, the lake is wider than that, so we technically only have 2 abutters, the left and right of us, and we're waiting for those green cards to come back, and as soon as they do, they'll be scanned and sent to Boston. And our time period should be any very short. I don't believe there was any other comments, and then we can move forward with the rest of that on Howard.
Revised plan and the.
Good.
Yeah, okay, thank you for that.
Thank you.
We learned.
Becky, what else?
All right, we have a couple more letter permits for tree removals. But before we get to that, I think I'll go to the old business, 169 Arnold Road. This was the forest cutting plan that came in.
Yep.
We had gone out there to look at where he wanted to, let me find this stuff. The skid road that went in
Yep.
had changed the water flow direction. I asked him for some additional information. Take one plastic down, please. So this is his description of the work. I asked for a narrative and a quick sketch. So you get the narrative in the front. The back has a little sketch showing where the cart path goes in, where the channel was, where it's been redirected. So clearly, he's asking to reestablish the natural flow by making a shallow 12 to 18 inch ditch across the skid road. Now, when they go in, just to remind you, even though he didn't have to, he did apply the BMPs and he's polling that area. So it will be polled, the skid road, before they access through there also, so.
Okay.
Oh, we have to make certain that when they talk about the polling, that that's gonna be permanent. Some of the guys try to pull the poles out at the end of the project.
I think you can.
What poles? What are you talking
One of the things that happens when they have to poll for crossings. And one of the problems that we've seen is that if it happens to rain shortly after they start pulling the poles, you have a huge erosion problem.
Yeah.
I mean, it really, really moves a lot of soil quickly.
I don't know if, did DCR, I have to look into that. Do they have a set time frame before they remove those? Is it like a growing season, or are they? I can ask them.
Yeah, because the consideration is, I've seen a couple of them where they did remove them, and the problems were manifest.
Are you thinking of polling, or are you thinking of water bars going down?
I'm thinking of polling,
Oh, okay,
just corduroy roading.
okay,
So you're putting poles across going in the same flow as the stream.
yep,
But one of the things, because they really drive the poles into the ground.
yeah,
I mean, they're running skidders that are loaded with logs across them.
yeah.
So they get, unless it's really rocky, it gets really embedded.
Yeah.
And then they try to pull them out, and the amount of silt that flows with them is big. So my normal rule of thumb when I was responsible for being the forestry liaison was I would always try to explain to them, you really don't want to do that.
Well, especially in this situation, if he's kind of redirecting the flow there, maybe it would be advisable to pole and then almost like bridge over it the other way, and then leave that there, at least the polling for a while, and that
Well,
way.
yeah, because after 2 to 3 years, the poles start to disintegrate.
Yeah.
They don't rot as quickly as on bare land because water protects them, but they do start to disintegrate. And in fact, they don't interrupt the flow
Right.
because they're guiding the flow in the same path as is normal for the water body.
Yeah.
I'm fine with that.
All right, so ask them to leave it for ever or a set period of time?
I would like to say forever, because if you tell them to take it out after 3 years, they're gonna be taking out soft wood.
Yeah.
That's almost a new record.
Yeah.
Well, if the water is flowing, then they should not be putting anything in it that is gonna block the flow. They have to bridge it.
But that's why they pull it, because what they do is they put 2 or 3 poles in, the water can continue to flow just like it did before.
Same direction.
And then they just put,
Nothing on, well,
Nothing, up-
they put like a mat on top of
Okay,
it,
that's-
typically. So that they're driving on something other than that bumpy log. But the mat has huge weight, and then you add the skidder with the logs on it. Oh, baby.
and those they get buried, basically, so.
Pretty basically, yeah.
Yeah.
Unless it's a really gravelly, sort of rocky base, then they'll sit there, but they're not interrupting the flow.
that's key.
And so we don't end up with scurrilous structures all over the place.
Do you think that could encourage like UTV use and stuff though? Because now you got
A crossing?
things.
Sometimes it's not advisable to have those crossings.
Well, if there's that much flow, then they probably should put, and the sediment is that soft and it's that wide of an area, then they should put down a couple of stringers that are like that wide, set them down in there, and then you set the swamp mats on top of that. If they're looking at something else, then we need to look at the conditions.
But you see, it isn't really our call. DCR has their approved practices.
Okay, yeah. Okay. That's right.
Unfortunately. And the regs are written by DCR, despite what our local regs are.
Okay.
So what's
But
the
I-
consensus here? What am I?
My experience is
Gentlemen?
not with DCR.
I'm fine with what David proposed, just,
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm not in favor of the channeling, so.
Who was talking about channeling?
That's what this is about, the first thing here.
I guess I should have read.
Well, you don't want the flow to go back where it's supposed to go and not on the road, which gonna cause erosion?
Supposed to go is an opinion.
Oh, I thought it was pretty well defined,
Yeah, but I
that,
just
that,
don't.
Where it
I just
used to
don't-
go.
I just don't want them going in there and channeling it. Period.
I mean, it could be made wider, you know, instead of having it, what does he say, 12 to 18 inches? Shallow. Oh, he's making it all the way across the skid road.
Right.
yeah.
So it's actually, I mean, that was kind of the width of where it looked like it naturally went before. So I wouldn't say it's like a little channel, though. I think that it's kind of,
Well,
if you look at the aerial photos.
It's all the way across the, if it's all the way
No,
across the skid
well-
row, it's a stream across the.
when I was out there with him, he was not talking about any channelizing or digging anything in that road itself. It's on the side of the road where the use of that road,
That's not what it says
It's
here.
created a berm.
it created a berm and,
Elimination of the berm is what you're talking about.
yeah, that's what he wanted to do, and let that flow get off of that road, which is problematic.
This is a 12 to 18-inch ditch across the skid row.
Okay, I haven't read it.
That's,
So does he mean?
just
well,
let's
he
vote
means
it. I mean, it's not a, I'm just not gonna vote for it.
But that's
12 to 18
substantial.
inches
What?
deep
12 to
across the
18
whole
inches
skid
is-
road,
That's what I'm
right?
saying, yeah, this is,
Well, that's not what, I had not read this. This is not what he said when we were out there.
this is why I don't like those things in the first place, is because this is how you end up with, stuff that, where the hell did that come from? Excuse my language.
Well, I'm glad he put it in writing, and
Yeah.
then we can say, that's not our initial,
Yeah.
Well, sorry, what was your initial thing? Because I read this, and he wants to put a 12 to 18 inch deep ditch across the width of the skid road. Is that accurate?
That's
So
accurate.
it's not,
that's what he's saying here.
We don't know if
Yeah.
That's
a
not what he
shallow
said.
12 to 18 inch,
Across the, across the width,
so it would be as wide as the skid road. So what naturally kind of flows down a wide area would just go through that area back to where it used to go. I wouldn't see that as, sorry, I wouldn't see it as channelizing. If you put a little 12 to 18 inch wide and you direct it into that, that's channelizing, you know what I mean? And then opening back up, I guess.
Okay, we gotta move this along. It was a
Yeah.
very nice, project, logging project, and we're tied on
right,
the diddly at the end.
yeah, you're
If,
right.
if we don't pay attention to the details will come back and bite us.
I don't
Well, this is
disagree.
an interesting one, because when he and I were out there, and he looked at it, and he said, I would like to just take a couple of shovelfuls of this berm on the side, put some stone in there, and then let this flow go back down through the woods and not down the road. I said, well, let's bring that to the commission. I brought it up.
'Cause
You
that's what
guys
you
said
brought
we
to
need a
us
plan.
before.
Yeah, and I did not read this before I made my comment. We did not talk about a ditch going 18 inches deep, going all the way across that
For
road.
200 feet.
Well, it wouldn't be 200 feet, would it?
No, it's just the.
That would be-
It's
where
like
the
8 to
cart
10
road goes
feet.
past.
Yeah. Anyway, you're right, it's a great logging plan, and if.
I just say no to this. I would
So
do it.
should we send an answer back?
I don't want to see the flow going down the road, though.
I don't
That's
either.
that's the problem.
I just want to show
I
you.
want to see it going back in.
I do too,
Yeah.
and this seems like overkill compared to
Well-
what he and I said out there, and what I described to you when we did the site walk. I would send it back and say, this isn't what you and Steve talked about, this is not what Steve presented to us, that based on the conversation in the field, now you've got something that is a little iffy in terms of getting that flow back through the woods like it's supposed to be. We just need to talk about it,
I think he needs to be here.
yeah.
Or send us a sketch of exactly what he's going to do based upon the correspondence.
So I think so if you look at this, so here is a wetland down here, and you can kind of follow this line here.
Yep.
I think this is where our cart road is. You can see this is where it did naturally flow through here, and right, A lot of it comes right off the pike here,
Right.
you know, comes down. Then I think, right, they just.
Now the problem is it goes over here, and it doesn't even go back into the
Right.
original channel. So this is all now deprived of, the flow that it has always had. So I would like to see that restored.
Can we give him a suggestion of what we would approve, what you'd like to see, and just have him do that? Might be more
We,
useful.
we typically have tried not to engineer things for people.
Right.
Rather give them a suggested end result and ask them to come up with the preferred method of getting there. Because if we engineer it for them and it fails, then they come back to us.
I think it should be wider. It should be wider and shallower is my opinion, and
So-
maybe rocks,
Yeah,
large
like
rocks
stone.
put down,
Some
stone,
rocks.
that will keep that channel intact.
So like 6 to 12 inches versus
I think we
12 to
should,
18?
I didn't mean to cut you off, sorry. I think we should give him the objective.
Right.
You change the flow, but don't cause erosion, and there are a whole bunch of BMPs for doing that.
Right.
I like yours, but we're not gonna tell them that.
Yeah.
In my opinion.
I agree.
But I think the objective is good. I don't like what they came up with unless they're gonna have this stoned and all that.
They don't talk about.
No.
Right. And 18 inches is, that's deeper than the channel is itself. That's going in and out, so I don't understand that.
Let's move it.
All right.
Stephen, at 18 inches, can't we call it a stream?
Yeah.
How do we, okay,
Becky, do you have an idea about what you might be able to send for a letter to him? Or do we need to flesh it out more here?
Well, I'd like to kind of give him a little more specific, but I think I have a good idea of what you're looking for.
Steve, can you be
I don't
more
know.
specific?
What I would say is that what you've presented to us could conceivably cause erosion
and channeling.
and channeling, thank you. And we don't,
We don't want that.
we would look for something to not cause erosion and channeling.
To maintain the water on the property and not on the road.
Right. I think that's a good objective. I just think his first shot at it was a little bit too big of a hurry.
Okay,
No, but that's how we work things out.
Oh, yeah, I agree. This is brainstorming.
all
So
right.
some ideas would be not as deep and add
Rock.
crushed stone and maybe not as wide as
Right.
necessary.
And it should be some fairly substantial rock, not something,
at it.
not anything that's gonna,
Right, look upstream, what does it look like? Want to make it like that.
well, we don't want it to wash out.
Yep.
Where, get a big rain and have it just wash away.
If you have some concerns about what to write, why don't you write something and send it to us first, before you send it to him?
Do that.
Yeah.
Yeah, we can second guess you.
All
You
right.
can tell me
Oh,
what
we
you
did
want
that.
and I'll write it.
I'll tell you what I want.
Wait a
But I can
minute.
tell that's not gonna happen.
We'll come by for a meeting.
I resemble that remark.
All right.
All right,
What else?
tree removals.
Tree removals.
312 the trail. There's some photos for you. I went out there. So we have 2 trees here. One, it's hard to see here, but it's this large pine here. It's obviously dead. There's a lot of lost bark on it. Pretty far from the water.
That was on a driveway.
Yeah, that's in the driveway going in. You can see it. I don't know. Can you see
Onto
it
the
from there?
point?
Yeah.
Here I can't see it, but you can see all the bark. It's visibly
Okay, is it
dead. No
dead?
concerns with that pine.
All right.
Then now there's another tree. I'm gonna go back a little bit.
It's already fallen down. Agree with it.
There's a
Steep
oak tree. I mean, obviously there's no leaves on it this time of year. They said there was no leaves on it this year. They indicated that it died from the gypsy moth. They lost a lot of branches on it. It's right next to the driveway by the house. They've fallen on the car. I mean, obviously can't tell if it's alive or not. It appears that it's obviously dead or declining.
You see the competition it's in?
It looks like it's pretty heavily wooded there, yeah.
Oh, yeah, so yeah, you can't see, there's a large limb that fell here. There's a lot of vegetation there. The shore's on the other side. They have actually a nice little cove right there that goes around. A lot of trees, mature, immature. I don't think there's any concern. here. A lot of that understory tree can grow now too.
All in favor? Done.
Thank you. "12 Tantascwa Shore." We drove by here the other day. We went to our site visit. Remember, it's a little house. There's a right of way. There's 2 trees here. We have this tree, which is on the property. We just reviewed a tight tank installation here.
Oh, yeah.
Remember, and on the plan,
Yeah.
there was a question about this tree. He had Elliott tree, I guess, look at it, it's diseased. He's recommended removing it before. That was mentioned when we were reviewing that plan.
Yep.
It's pretty dead. It's just this one limb. It did have some leaves on it. It's been dropping a lot of branches on the property. It's another tree. This is a large oak. Obviously, it's, the bark's gone here. This is the water's back here. This is the right of way by the house. So it's the tree's on the right of way. National Grid's actually going to take it down. He does indicate who the property owners are. I'll add the language to get permission from all the property owners before they remove it.
All right,
We're,
that's a
we're,
good
we're actually
thing.
working to revise our.
I was gonna have somebody remove a tree on your property, see if you liked it.
I always put that information in there, get permission from property owner.
You
We're
seemed a
gonna
little
add.
sarcastic just then.
Huh?
You seemed a little sarcastic.
We're actually revising our application to include signature from the applicant and property owner, so that way there'll be no question
Right.
in the future, but this guy's dead.
You do also include in that.
All in favor,
letter-
those 2 trees being taken down?
But hang on, though.
Dead and deader.
Do you wanna,
What about having some replacement?
so I talked to
because-
him about that, so
Yeah.
here's his house in the front, he's got that one tree right there.
Yep.
He's got the tight tank, there's some, power lines there.
Right.
Now, this is the right-of-way area, because I said, well, I noticed that, this died at some
boat
point in
launch?
time. I mean, what?
It's a boat launch?
Yeah. So, could be useful to plant something back here. It's not his property individually. On his property, besides the front, he's got a large maple over here. He's got another tree here. So there's nothing really in the front. Now, the front of the house where that tree is, let's see. See, there's a line here.
Yeah.
But then it's hard to see. This is all lawn. That's where the tight tank is.
Right.
You could probably put a tree there, but I don't know with this line if it's advisable. This area in front of the house is where the tight tank is, and the line goes into the house there, so I don't think that's a good spot, but
Just because there's nothing out, there's no other trees in the front of this.
In the front.
I would like to have the 2-to-1 replacement for this, and
I fully
he can,
support
For the-
Stephen's motion.
he can figure out where is the best place to put those based on,
And they have to be on his property. They can't be where the other tree was.
okay.
on the
Well,
right of way.
Because we can't.
So
put it on the
that'll
right
be
of way.
tougher,
Yeah.
because it's such a small lot.
Yeah.
So you
And
can
we
see,
also should give her a DBH, because, they'll plant a 1-year-old pine.
Yeah, right. All right, so at least, I would like to, that's it. Then the trees, there's no more trees once that comes down on this, in this whole front area.
So we want a plan for replacement back
Yeah.
before we allow them to cut them down. Is that what we're saying here?
That is
That
my,
makes sense. That's what we
Right.
normally would like to see.
The commission's opinion is that there's no trees there whatsoever if that's removed. And we'd like to see a plan to replace them,
A
well,
sketch,
what we've,
a sketch.
a sketch of a plan.
and we can start requiring that, but just so you know, what we've been doing is we've been telling people, it's a conditional approval. You have approval to remove it with the following conditions, replanting and this and that. So that's how we kind of leave it.
But
If
we're
they
just
don't,
concerned here because of the, it's a little convoluted because the right-of-way is there.
Yep,
And
so
we
you
don't know
want
about the
something-
ownership, so we want him to tell us.
right.
All
so,
right?
And I think we should put a size on it, though.
Yeah, we can do that with,
Yeah.
when he comes back to us.
Okay.
right,
agree.
but just so you are aware, there are trees here. He does
Right.
have 2 large trees here.
Yeah.
This is where the driveway is. This is where the tight tank is. This shadow here that's the large oak. That shadow is where that maple is.
Mm-hmm.
So they're probably, he could put something
Right there.
here. Like I said,
And
there are
maybe
power
one-
lines.
One in here or something, or
Yeah, he's
along
got
this.
some
There's shrubs along there.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's something there.
The
but-
guy lives there, let him decide where
Yeah.
he thinks he wants to put them.
Okay, so you
We have
want
to stop
two,
trying
I would like to see
engineer things
two,
for people.
two trees put in.
two trees for that?
Yep. We have a 2-to-1 replacement. This, you know, if there's a lot of trees there, then we don't, you know, and there's understory that's gonna grow up, then we don't necessarily require that. But in this case, we don't have any understory.
And we want him to tell us before we cut.
Where? So send a sketch.
Yeah.
All right. Is that something you want moving forward when we ask for this? Because we haven't, I mean, but even before my time, the letters haven't been written that way. I've added language in there, if you do not agree with this, you need to contact us, blah, blah, blah. If we do not hear from you, we, you know.
Well, I think you should
decide
start talking to them about, not necessarily a form to come back to us, but you should, when they start to tell you about what they're gonna cut down, ask them if there's, what they can do for replacement.
Right, and we're changing our form too, so it has asked more for that on there. But it's also hard too, because sometimes, I don't really know, some of these situations you don't want replacements. And it's hard for me to always advise people, like tonight, you know, if people, you know, don't want to make them come to a meeting if it's not necessary that they're here, but sometimes it's useful. So I tell them, it's always useful if a person's here, I don't have time for you. You know,
Yeah.
people don't work in this area, so it's hard for them to get here. So it's kind of, I'd like to work on that because I always struggle with, I don't want people to not come and delay something for them or whatnot, but it's not always clear to me what the outcome might be too. So maybe if we can
Right.
set some,
I think in almost all cases, it works the way that you've been doing it. The problem is that there are certain sites like this where all the trees have been taken down at some point and there's nothing left, or there are very few trees
Yeah.
left. And
I mean, if he can, but if he could talk to his neighbors about the right of way and putting one over there, I think that would be
That would
actually
be a
nice.
solution.
that would be fine.
Yeah.
Yep, I'd be.
All right.
Because
All
we
right.
want
I've
to,
already indicated that we might ask for replacements, and he's already been made aware of that, so I'll talk
Good.
to him, I'll get a sketch. I mean, if National, so the big
All right.
oak, National Grid is coming in to take that down, have someone take that down, we can let him move forward with that, the replacements for the maple on his property, is that okay, if that's already
Yep.
scheduled to
Yep.
them?
Yep.
I mean, they might have ability to do it anyways, because it's in there right away, but.
Yeah, that sounds fine.
Okay, where are we now?
We are almost done.
Everyone's in a hurry.
I mean, no, I just want to keep it going because I know he's gonna quit the committee if I don't get this thing done in time.
All right, so, under correspondence, I just kind of wanted to fill you in with what's been going on. So, about the Walmart Center of Hobbsburg Plaza. So I've been doing some research and trying to contact people there. So our Alan had indicated that there's a failing or partially failed retaining wall.
Wall, yeah.
Behind the Marshall's building.
Oh.
So Glenn had reached out in 2016, I think when it first became known by ARC, I think ARC's the one who found it, reached out to the Walmart, or whoever owns that plaza now, whatever the management company is.
WS Development.
It's somebody else now, Colwright Advisors out of Arizona, I guess, but, so he had reached out to them. Where's my notes? Let me file. Sent an email, got a reply, talked to the guy, they were gonna have someone go out, look at the wall. That happened, no correspondence afterwards. So then, Stephen Soper had stopped in after I had started sometime early this year, said that, he was asked to look at it. The people, they had an engineer company go out, said the wall's fine, needs some repairs, but, you know, didn't fail or wasn't failing. I've reached out to this company again because we didn't receive anything from them. I started again in October, reached out to them via email, no reply, emailed again, sent a letter, got a reply, that same thing, they had someone go out there, look at the wall, they had an engineer firm look at it, it's fine, they are gonna do some repairs to it, and as soon as the weather permits, they'll start doing it. And I was like, well, no, that's not how it works, you gotta file a notice of intent, as you instructed in this letter dated such and such. So, after he sent me that email, I did reply and said, no, you need to do notice of intent, you should have your engineer contact us, or a representative immediately, because we should need to go out and look at it before something happens. Also, a reminder that you do need to file a notice of intent, do that work, but move forward ASAP. So I've put them, on notice again, but if you know, that was last week, so I'm thinking if the next step, if we don't hear from them, I mean, I've gone out there, but I didn't walk down the slope down towards the wall. I think we should go look at it. I'm hoping that they'll bring us out there and we can look at it with them. I also did ask them about their original orders of conditions had salt restrictions there. I did ask them for the information on who their contractor is, because Glenn, I think in 2015, the contractor actually contacted him on behalf of Walmart.
Us. They
Yes.
came before the committee.
Oh, they came before you guys,
Yeah.
okay. So there was some correspondence, I found a letter with the information, no salt, et cetera. I think Glenn did ask again who was doing the contract, crickets in 2016, so I asked again, now that
It was
it's
Dave
winter.
Kabinski at one point.
It was Dave Kavinsky, right?
Okay.
Is this that really high concrete retaining wall that we looked at when we
Yes.
were
Yeah.
down there?
The
Okay.
blocks, yeah.
That's all crumbly and,
Yeah.
yeah. Okay. Yeah, that's
Well-
not good.
Actually, I mean, I don't know, I can't find our file, we'll find it, because I know that Glenn and Ann had it for the Walmart Plaza here. I was able to track down a folder in our drive that had a copy of one of the pages of the orders of conditions, so I was able to actually to get the book and page number, because I was having a hard time on the registry of deeds finding it. So now I can get the orders of conditions, but I don't know, I want to find plans for that, and I'm sure planning must have them someone, but I'll be getting that stuff together if I can't find ours, to see how far back the wall was from the wetland, because it's actually in the wetland now.
Yeah.
So that wetland's expanded, you know, so it's a bigger concern now, and that may be why it's partially failed too, so.
Right.
Well, you know that if you sent, one of you mailed tomorrow by express mail, the enforcement order, they would get it on Christmas Day.
I think we need to look at the wall, because I actually haven't seen the wall.
Yeah, let's take a look at it.
I haven't seen it.
And
Yeah,
we can
what
get pretty close to it from that access road, so it's
Yeah.
without too much trouble.
Yeah, I actually drove behind Marshall's, was gonna go in that way,
Oh, yeah.
you know.
Well, that's what he's talking about, that access road.
You mean
Well, I'm telling you about the one that's actually on the north side of, oh, I don't know what, actually, I don't know what. it actually
Where we
is. I
would
think it's the
then
north
just
side
follow
of
that
the,
way.
right, of the
Yeah.
Where
solar,
the
Solar-
antique,
solar
where the
field.
antique mall is? The road?
Yeah. Well,
You can see it
and then
very
it's
well from the
perpendicular-
mosquito stream.
Right,
Yeah.
Yeah.
exactly.
Yeah.
I did get a picture. I got a report
Mosquito
from Art
ditch.
Allen. I was gonna bring it. I forgot. Monitoring report for that.
Yeah.
And it actually does show water going over the.
Oh,
where
really?
They restored that. Yeah, it actually flowed over that.
Holy
I
mackerel.
said I'm gonna show
That's
you that.
good.
I'm gonna bring it.
That's good. That made my night.
All right, so I'll do some more pulling, but I think I'm gonna try to. We don't have another meeting until February 15th, but I think I need to at least get out there if someone wants to come with me.
I'll go with
So
you.
I don't
I'll go with you.
It's a
get
nice
lost in
day.
the swamp
Yeah.
there. All right.
I'll go.
What day are we talking about?
I don't know.
We can make it, you can figure it out. We'll get through
All right,
Christmas.
I'll email you guys.
Yeah.
Let's not do it in the snow, though.
Yeah.
Not January 2nd,
Yeah.
early morning.
Yeah, right.
So,
There is an early morning, January 2nd?
Becky, just to be clear, the third tree removal permit you have listed?
That's, sorry, the 8
So
and
did
12.
did we actually vote on that to approve that?
Well, he submitted 2, so we can do them separately if you like. I was kind of doing it as one. So the 12 Tantascwa Shore is where the one, he has the maple. The
Okay.
right of way is the large oak.
So we're holding up those two, or we're gonna hold them up for, a
We
plan to
can, or
repur-
Yeah.
do you want to keep the oak separate and just approve the large dead
Well,
oak
if he
in the
gets
right of
if he
way?
gets them to come in and take the oak out, we should let him do that.
Okay,
You know,
right, because it's through them, so.
being done professionally.
So we need to vote on that?
Yeah, we
Right,
should
you want
vote
to do
on
it
that.
separately?
All in favor? Yeah.
Okay, we'll keep it separate. I actually would like to go look at that wall this week if possible.
Oh, my
Well,
God.
I think it's important.
I can't commit to go see.
Thursday morning or Friday morning.
Friday morning, I'm in Plymouth.
Hang on.
What about tomorrow morning?
Well, I have to be somewhere at 10 o'clock, but otherwise, 9 o'clock or it's fine.
I'm not good this week.
I couldn't do it tomorrow morning, but I could do it, in maybe early afternoon, something like that.
I think think as long as one person comes with me, someone
I
else
can,
should
I
see
can
the
do
wall.
it. The power's supposed to be out for 5 hours around my house tomorrow, so.
Yeah.
I thought you were talking about the
Yeah,
whole,
some
No,
time.
from 8 to 2.
really?
Or 9 to 2.
9
Yeah.
to 2.
Yeah, so,
Wow.
so I need to find something to do between 9 and 2 tomorrow, so.
Holy.
Come on down.
The coffee house is gonna
You
be
gonna do it
full.
in the morning then?
No, I mean, like, we can do it early afternoon.
I mean,
Like,
I,
can you do it at noon or 1?
Yeah.
Noon?
Sure. I eat lunch at 11, so I'm ready to go at noon.
Okay.
I was thinking of having a working lunch tomorrow, working out that little swale issue with the Conservation Commissioner and the agent and the,
Don't you have the land group meeting tomorrow?
No, it's canceled.
Always?
Yeah, a couple people couldn't make it, so that's usually at 9.
Oh.
All right, so you want to
All right.
meet behind Marshall's at noon tomorrow?
That's fine, or you want to meet here and drive over? It doesn't matter to me, whatever's
Well, it's
easiest.
closer for me to
Oh,
just
okay,
drive there
yeah.
then.
I'll meet you here and we'll drive over
Yeah.
All right,
All right, so I'll see you guys there after.
behind Marshall's at
noon.
noon.
at noon.
So from Marshall's, you're just gonna walk
Yeah.
down?
I guess. I don't know. I've never been behind Marshall's, so.
If it's
Well-
exciting, FaceTime me.
I think the best way to go in behind Marshall's, if you're facing the wetland, is on the right side probably.
Okay.
Because I think if you go on the left side, it's all wetland right there. You can't see the whole wall, so I think we need to go that way.
Can you actually drive around behind, or you have to walk behind there?
Well, you can drive behind Marshall's and you park, and it's like a really steep
don't know how
slope
you're
that
gonna
goes
get-
down. It's got all little
I
pines
don't know how
on
you're gonna
it.
get down on that side. That's what, I don't think I don't remember getting down on that side.
I don't know, figure it out.
Well,
Not
the other
bad.
option is to park next to Applebee's and then walk on
Walk in that
that
access road?
Yeah.
Okay.
I won't be going.
That way we
She
can
had me
see
climb
it.
it
We won't
Yeah.
be on the right side, but we can see it.
Yeah.
Well, why don't we park, sorry, this is a longer discussion.
Oh, my God.
Parking at Applebee's and walking in,
you-
park by Petco over there
Yeah.
on that side,
Okay,
because you can go right there and get in.
all right,
Go park right there.
all right,
All right, so right below the bank.
okay.
Okay. All right, we'll meet
See you there
at
at noon.
12.
Sounds good.
Noon?
Anything else?
9 minutes.
Oh, yeah,
Oh, minutes.
Thank you, everybody.
All right, approval of minutes from November 6th, 2018. Do I have a motion?
No move.
Second?
Second.
Discussion? All in favor? And November 20th. Do I have a motion?
I move we accept them. They were
Second.
stellar.
I wasn't here, so I can't vote on that. I don't think.
Okay. All in favor? And the 28th.
What are you sneering about over there? I move we accept the minutes of
It's the
November
28th.
28th.
Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Discussion?
They were stellar.
All in favor? Here we go.
Wait, can you guys all vote on the 28th ones if only 3 of you were there? Yeah? What do I know?
If you're not there, you can't, unless you did the Mullen report.
Right.
Yeah.
It's only 3 of us can vote.
Oh, okay, all right, thank you. That's all I need to know.
Yep.
Power off, are you sure?
You kidding me? She's powering us off. when we
Mr.
have no-
Chair,
I have a motion
I make
to-
a motion to adjourn.
I want my
I think we
power
should
off.
have some discussion. I don't think we should be able to power down until we close the meeting.
Is someone going to second my,
Very,
Not
that
looking at that anyways.
all right.
was very presumptive of her to just assume.
8:15, 16.
Thanks, guys.